think this is probably the biggest attendance for any talk so far. Well done, Marianne. You're obviously you've got a good fan base. So we've got Luca Cincinnati and Marianne from the Nightjar team.
Thank you.
Anyone who's ever been to their bar will know that their drinks presentation is exemplary, and that's why I asked them to come today to show, give some inspiration ideas for what they're doing at the Nightjar. So it's a fantastic bar. Maybe go down and see them tonight. Maybe not. And I'll pass you over to Marianne. Take care, Marianne. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. We're gonna make few very classic drinks and maybe change the glass, the way how it look like, or the garnish or ingredients inside, so to make it more unique for your bar. By trying to make cocktails more unique for your bar. So what we're starting is a Deep Sea. Deep Sea, as I mentioned before, is cocktail very similar to Martinez, just the ratio is different. Now, why we choose the Martinez is kind of classic, which any classic bar used to work. It's quite popular, especially for bartenders, but even for, I would say, older gentlemen or ladies which appreciate classic drinks. Now, Deep Sea makes us interesting because of the name of the Deep Sea. Yeah? Sometimes you can connect and use it as an upselling or marketing the way you using the name or connecting with the serve. Yeah? When you say Deep Sea, obviously you kind of imagine ocean, sea, shells, seafood, so on, so on. Yeah? So what we're changing for this cocktail, even the recipe is classic. Firstly, we serve it in a coupette on the shell, seashell. Do you have it? So we're gonna drink the cocktail out of the seashell. Yeah? Seashell will be sitting over the dry ice, and when you pour water on the crushed ice with the dry ice, what's happening? You're gonna create a smoke. This will kind of remind you maybe sea or ocean in the morning, as well as in the same time the functionality of the drink is the seashell will get cold. So we're getting, imagine the martini, what's happening in a few minutes getting warmer. Similar this drink because a little bit on the strong side. If you drink it for more than 2-3 minutes in a room temperature bar, it's get a little bit warmer, yeah? So we're using dry ice for that. Ready, Luca?
Yes.
So what we used was Old Tom gin, which we're aging a little bit in our barrel. This is not for kind of fancy purposes, it's also for the theater of the guest, yeah? So what we're focusing is to make sure the guest get the value for the money, get a little bit of theater, come back to your bar. So you can use it as a talk point, try to explain what was the Old Tom gin back in the days, how it was distributed, how it was stored, maybe the woodiness inside, maybe you can mix your gins, you can use Geneva, you age it in a barrel, you pour it from the barrel, you got a little bit more theater rather than people just take gin, vermouth, stir it, Martinez done, thank you so much, and charge £10. Since we're talking about Deep Sea, I would always imagine kind of salty flavors or umami flavors connected with the sea or seafood, right? So our garnish is olive and pickled walnut. Walnut was typical garnish back for, I read it in some book, for Manhattan, pickled nuts. So we're pickling them down, not in a vinegar, rather than balsamic Galliano. Galliano create new liquor, balsamic flavor, so we use that. You got another talking point, you can talk to your brands as well, you're making something with their product. So please drink it from the shell, just pick up the shell outside of the dry ice and drink it from the shell. Also the sensation once your tongue or your lips touching something different than the glass, it will change the memory. And that's what we want. Your brain basically getting the flavors on 75 to 80% of the way it looks rather than taste, okay? So if you see something nicely presented or your feeling is different, when you touch it or drink it, it will change the perspective of the drink. There should be some straws. You need straws? You see it?
No plastic.
Ocean water. When Luca was stirring a drink, only one thing I forgot, we're adding touch of salted water. Yeah? So the salted water is basically Japanese deep ocean water. We put it in a menu as well. When you're reading the menu and you see kind of classic cocktails, it might look boring as well. What we're trying to create is each cocktail use little signature or something which sounds strange. So people either memorize this cocktail or they start to asking why. When you're reading this cocktail and you see deep ocean water, 4 people out of 5 will ask you, what do you mean by deep ocean water? So you got another thing which you can upsell or talk about. Yeah? Deep ocean water is a Japanese water which is high in minerals and salt. Now it doesn't change flavor much, rather than give you a touch of saltiness. So we're again connecting Deep Sea name with some saltiness inside. And also, the high mineral contents in the water will change your freezing point. When you're stirring a drink and not shaking, if you add a touch of salt inside, the degree of coldness will be less than normal. Yeah? I think back in the days they used to, for all frozen drinks, add a pinch of the salt. Right? Cool. How is it? Have you tasted? Nice. Would you like a couple of minutes to try this, or we can go to second one straight away again? Ready for second? Yeah. Now the second one called Name of Samurai. Name of Samurai is basically, the idea was on whiskey sour. Whiskey sour is a cocktail which I would say 9 people of 10 will always enjoy it, ask for it, or order it again. Yeah? Very common drink. It's a balance between sweet and sour. You can change the base. You will always go for it. These are the drinks which you want to put on a menu and maybe change them slightly to make sure you will sell it a lot and you make your margin, correct? Now what we change here, firstly, I try to make this whiskey sour focus on the lady clientele. Yeah? If you think of ladies, what do you got on the mind? Maybe more kind of fragile flavor, something more fragrant, flowery, a little bit less sweet or bitter, yeah, something like that. Name of Samurai, as the name suggests, is based on a Japanese whiskey rather than bourbon or scotch. So the Japanese whiskey, Nikka from the barrel, is a little bit lighter, maybe a little bit more on the sweet side, and you will get more kind of jasmine or lavender, more flavors inside him. This is our base whiskey. Then what we change rather than whiskey sour is we don't add in egg white, because egg white will run the flavors. So this whiskey sour will be without the egg white. Instead of lemon, which is sharper, we use lime as well, so make it a little bit smoother and more gentler. And instead of bitters, which you normally add inside of the sour, we add in lavender. Now the lavender will even open more and support more these flower flavors, as well as you got theatre again. So we just brought the lavender with us inside of the spicy box, but you can have a pot of lavender, fresh lavender on the bar. So rather than take the bitters, which you take in every second drink, and drop it inside, you can cut the lavender, you can smash the spice in your hand, you can zest or grind some kind of root or bitter. Will look a little bit different. So the way you're looking at the drink, or you're looking at the bartender how he's making, it changed the cell as well as the memory of the drink. Also, the technique we make in the drink is a rolling. So the rolling is something between shaking and stirring, I'm sure as you know. You get a little bit of air, and in the same time, you don't get as much dilution as by shaking, and the drink doesn't get so cold. So what happens, you can still appreciate the flavor, especially if there is a flowers or some fragile flavors. Now again, it's called Name of the Samurai, so I want to make sure people get the message. If they're not sitting on the bar, maybe they're sitting behind a corner or in the booth, hidden in the booth. I want to make sure they get the message what's inside. So if you buy something called Name of Samurai, it's based on a Japanese whiskey, we're using cup, which is used for sake originally. Thank you, Luca. And we serve it with the cookies, Japanese azuki bean cookies or mixture of the cookies. Why the cookie? Because whiskey is normally based on a grain, yeah, either wheat or the kind of grain. Cookies same. So you can accompany it with a cocktail. We try to change the garnish also because you want to change the experience. So if you go in a 10 bars, each of them give you lemon slice and cherry, and then I come to Niger in our bar and you ask for whiskey sour and bartender suggests you something like this. Still is the family of whiskey sours, but the flavor and maybe the garnish will make it a little bit different. Thank you. The little bird on it is origami, which our guys making. Why are we using origami? Because the Niger is a bird. So we try to kind of cut out of the shapes all kind of birds, either in the sweets or in the peels, or in this case, since the Japanese origami, it's a bird again, something to connect with your name, so people get a memory of the name of your bar, okay? You're promoting the title. Like it? Origami should be soaked with the perfume. which we forget, sorry about that. So when it's hanging over the glass, rather than zesting some, you cannot really put a peel or zest on it. So use the bird, and since it's a paper, you can soak it with a perfume or some kind of oils. So you've got another talking point and keep it a smell. The paper will soak the oil. Next cocktail we're making called fog cutter, typical tiki cocktail, correct? Now, as I explained you in the first cocktail, we're again trying to connect something with the name to introduce inside of the cocktail. So fog cutter, supposed to be such a strong drink, so when you're going home, when you're passing out of the bar, you almost see the fog. Yeah? Now the fog, we try to recreate with the dry ice. So on the top of the drink, we put little layer of the dry ice. When using dry ice, you have to be a little bit careful because the dry ice works the same as the hot water. Yeah? So if you've got temperature minus 70, minus 80, it will be the same than plus 70, plus 80. So we really don't want your guest to be drinking dry ice to swallow it. In this case, we just lay the dry ice on the top to make sure the customer, the guest, while they finish it, they're not gonna reach the dry ice. Yeah? It will melt it by the time. Also, we serve it with a metal straw. So the metal straw doesn't stag or doesn't get destroyed by the dry ice. Since we're talking about the tiki drink, and we are not a tiki bar, we had a little bit of situation using either tiki mugs or buying something cheesy. You know, but sometimes not suitable when you look on the bar over the tables and you see cheesy, you know, this kind of sculptural glasses over the table. What we find now, you can find bamboo holders, just cut them down and wrap it around your crystal glasses or highball glasses. So we've got simple garnish, done in a few seconds, and it still reminds you maybe tiki culture or this kind of fancy cocktail. No? Fog cutter, brandy, gin, rum, fresh orange juice, and almond syrup. We're making our almond syrup as well, like it used to be back in the days. So it's a mixture of almonds, barley, rose petal. Chef is cooking it down. Then you add a little bit of cognac to preserve it for a long time. Garnish for the fog cutter, something tiki. So we're using dehydrated pineapple on the top. You can use pineapple sticks. So when we cut the pineapple, we use the core, we create the pineapple sticks, then you can macerate them, you can use some Amaro flavor, so while the people bite it, they get another flavor again, something to remember. Also, we don't want to waste anything in your bar, so when you're juicing the pineapples for another drink or you're cutting the leaves, make sure nothing goes in a bin. You can use the skin, you can use inside, you can use the leaves, so on, so on. Everything costs the money. Anything goes in a bin, it's your money, end of the day.
Thanks. Yes.
So after we shake, we put the cocktail first, and we just put little layer on the top of the dry ice, which will create the fog. That's the connection with the name, fog cutter. And you cover it with the garnish. These are the things which people always appreciate, you know. Even the bartender thinks it's a little bit cheesy, it's still kind of point where, you know, you go in a bar, you got a little bit of the fun, you see a little bit of smoke, you want to order it again. Okay. Just to activate dry ice a little bit more, we layer the beer, which is normally Focata was finished either with sherry or port wine. We find this beer, which is reintroduced in the UK. If you taste it, it's similar to port with the spices, so we use this, give it richer flavor. So if you see on the menu Focata, and you see a little bit of the fog, it kind of makes sense, you get more fun. Tiki garnish, something exotic fruit, coconuts. If you got the coconut, we can slice it down as well. So we see this was the slices of coconut, and we shape the bird as well. Again, the nightjar is a bird, so we try to cut it in. Also, we make more slices rather than one piece. You can make 5 slices, so we're saving money, and it looks more cool. Please give it a try. Just be careful with it when you're tasting with the dry ice. Normally, you're supposed to drink it through the straw from the bottom rather than from the top.
Bien.
We're drying the pineapple for one reason, man. When I was working at bars before, what I seen, and the bartenders don't really care about the owner or how much money you spend. Maybe you work in a hotel or different kind of venues. We used to waste a lot of things, right? So when you open a bar and you're selling mainly cocktails, it's hard to expect what your night's going to be. Eh? You don't want to over-prepare, you don't want to under-prepare. So that's why making this kind of garnishes, if you dehydrate some stuff which you know churn, and maybe it's over-expensive, such exotic fruit, so on, you can keep it for longer. When you macerate something, when you got fresh pineapple sticks and you macerate them, again, you can keep it longer. So like this, in next cocktail, we're gonna use the berries. The berries are macerating Galliano, Balsamico. So you got Talking Point back in the days. They used to be pickled. Seasonal fruit used to be pickled for different seasons. So during the summer, you collected the berries, you pickle them in vinegar, sugar, salt, preserve them in alcohol, and you kept it for the winter time. You can do the same. You can explain to your guests that this is recipe from back in the days, and you don't waste anything. Yeah? So next cocktail we're making called 24 Watt Cobbler. Cobbler is a category of drinks, normally based on a wine, shaved ice, and some kind of fruit syrup. This was kind of celebration of seasonality. Ladies enjoyed it, drink it from wine glass, shaved ice. And if the fruit was in the season, with the syrup out of the season, a lot of seasonal garnish on the top. What we changed it here? I want to make this drink focus really on the ladies. The focus was, so if the lady tastes it, it's gonna be light enough, but interesting enough to finish it fast and order it again. So it's based on a red wine. Now, out of the red wine, when we want to carry the flavor of the red wine, I started thinking of the sommeliers, what they're matching the red wine with. And most common ingredients was chocolate. Now, if I use chocolate liqueur, which is quite popular in the bars, it might oversweet my cocktail. I don't want to make it oversweet because if you give somebody 1 or 2, they probably change the order, right? So what we find was this Mozart dry chocolate-based spirit. I'm sure you've seen it before. So you get your bitter, dry chocolate note, but it doesn't necessarily give you a sweetness into the cocktail. We're using berries and fresh cranberries inside. So again, when ladies reading the menus and you see something based on a wine, chocolate, but it's a chocolate spirit is a good combination, then cranberry, which is your sour agent. Maybe you got kind of feeling, you know, the ladies these days, they want to live trendy, organic. You see the cranberry, that's kind of super berry.
Yeah.
It's more easy to sell. Chocolate liqueur. As a sweeteners, rather than syrup, we use blended berry liqueur. What I mean by blended berry liqueur, instead of adding splashes of raspberry, strawberry, blueberry, and blackberry, your barber just mix it in advance, and then just put a splash of this ultimate berry liqueur. We serve it traditionally in kind of wine glass over the crushed ice.
Bella cobbler.
So Matthias should say a joke, but he's not in a mood, so we're gonna continue with the cocktail. Yeah? Our garnish is a cobbler ice. Just to connect with something with the past. Since we changed few ingredients, I still want to connect with the classic category of the drinks. So cobbler used to be served with the shaved ice. Shaved ice or cobbler ice back in the days is not the same what you can see today, cracked ice which machine make you. Yeah? Shaved ice was you basically receive your ice block, because back in the days there was no ice machine, and you either crack it, chunk it, or you shave it with a knife. So it was almost edible because of the soft flakes. Yeah? So we're creating this little basket. You can use your lime squeezer, or you can squeeze it inside of the glass, flip it over, and put it back in the freezer so it's nice, ready, and hard during the service. We use the basket to layer the berries, because the berries are macerated in a vinegar, balsamico galliano vinegar, so it's slowly soaking the flavor and dipping inside of the cocktail. Yeah? Thank you. Luca, we ignite this. Yeah? Now, cobbler was served also either with a fork or with a spoon. Why? Because there was a lot of seasonal fruit on the top, so the ladies can grab the fruit and enjoy it. Yeah? What we changed, our pastry chef making chocolate spoon as well, because it's based on a chocolate spirit. So you can eat your fruit and you can buy the chocolate, so you kind of support the sweetness and combine the flavor. Now, if you're sitting on the bar, we've got always a little bit different service on the bar than on the floor, so people on the bar can kind of have contact with the people. We find this cinnamon stick, actually it's not a stick, cinnamon bark, and sometimes we serve sweet cocktails over the cinnamon bark, so we get the smell rather than smell from the drink, because maybe it's too icy, too coldy, and the berries doesn't really give you a smell. You want to make sure there is a connection not just with the eyes or with the taste, but your nose is included as well.
I think
Let's pour over this. Pour over and flame. Cinnamon bark until, as you know, with the spice, until you either break it or you smash it or you do something with it, it won't open the flavor. So what we do, we just pour over any kind of overproof alcohol and we ignite it for a few seconds. So this burning basically activates the smell, cinnamon smell. Then you serve it. You can either put the glass over it or you can serve it by the side, so people are getting the smell for another 10-15 minutes. Thank you. So this might be a little bit lady orientated, eh? That was the idea in the drink, so gentlemen, don't get offended if it's too sweet for you. Next cocktail we're making, it's called Japanese. Japanese has a few cocktails in the beginning. It's an old recipe. When Jerry Thomas had one of his guests, nationality by Japanese, and this was the drink he was drinking. Normally it's a cognac, almond syrup, lime, and bitter. What we change in the recipe is our almond syrup, so maybe the flavor, the texture, the creaminess will be different than if you buy almond syrup, since they're just making it a bit artificially these days. And also service, as we did before, we try to connect the name with the serve, the actual serve. So what would we change for the Japanese? Again, the glass, we start with the glass. So it will be a sake glass, maybe different shape than we used before. And since it's based and sweetened up on the almond syrup, we want to carry this kind of nutty flavor. Also, there is not much lime inside, so it's a little bit on the sweet side. So just as an option, what we do, we serve it with the wasabi nuts. Why wasabi nuts? Because they're very spicy. So sometimes you can cut the sweetness not just with the lime juice or lemon juice, but you can use other agents to cut through the sweetness. It can be bitter, it can be spice, so on, yeah? Wasabi nuts are very spicy, so people got options. If the drink is a little bit on the sweet side, they can eat it and will balance it. Also, wasabi nuts are typical for Japan, and it's a nut. Since we're using inside of the almond syrup, it might be a little bit connected as well. Yeah? Wasabinars are sitting on the bottom of the glass, inside of the second part of the sake service. So when your guest is drinking, he's got little kind of snack by the side as well as you can balance your drink. Eh? And you don't need to serve another plate next to the drink by the side. This bad bar, okay.
Yeah.
So cocktail dated around 1880s, little twist on it, still classic, flavor almost haven't changed, but you do little signature on it so people maybe memorize your bar rather than other ones. We're using our playing cards as a menu, and in the same time sometimes help us to either promote the cocktails or holders for the garnishes, so you can use it for that, you know, or people can play poker if they like to. I just sent a few so they can see. Would you like to pass it through? So you can see our menu over the cards. Yeah? Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, bello.
Fantastic. The last cocktail we're making today is a coffee cocktail. Another classic drink with a funny name. Yeah? It's called coffee cocktail, but actually there is no coffee inside. So we try to use the name to maybe play with it a little bit. Coffee cocktail is kind of digestive style of the drink, and the combination of ingredients kind of remind you coffee without being coffee inside. Yeah? It's contained whole egg, brandy. In this case we're using Armagnac because I believe back in the days not all the brandy used to be balanced and smoothed up to 40 ABV like today. So Armagnac is kind of grand brother of the brandy, might give more authentic flavor. So Armagnac is our base. Again, instead of port, we use this beer because it's similar to port by flavor and maybe touch of spice. So Mayo drink bring a bit further. And whole egg. In Niger, we're using duck eggs rather than chicken eggs because of the texture and maybe a little bit more flavor rather than chicken eggs. Now for the glass we add the crusta. You can use icing sugar, you can put your, since I have a bar called Niger, we put a little bit bird. You can play with it, you can do little kind of art over the icing sugar. You can use different colors of icing sugar. So we put, I don't know, black cocoa, matcha green tea, red hibiscus, any kind of dust, and you mix it. Since that it reacts with the glass, with the wet glass out of the freezer, you get the flavors and the colors as well. In this case we're using green tea matcha crusta because tea and coffee is kind of similar. Also give you sweetness as well if people want to. When we break the egg, we always keep the yolks. In this case we're adding whole egg. So we keep the shell. We keep the shell rather than throw it away, and we use the eggshell for the garnishes. Now we're playing a little bit with the eggshell. If you're using sours, maybe you can add bitter and float it over the drink. in this case, what we do, or what we normally do, we either add some kind of foam, or you can use advocat, homemade advocat liquor, since it's containing egg. So try to connect flavor inside with what's actually inside of the egg. So we can explain to people they can float it inside or drink it itself. So maybe this is based on the egg. You're gonna have advocat liquor inside, or some egg foam, such creme brulee style, or you can put even coffee liqueur, since some people may be expecting coffee flavor. So if you like to enhance the flavor, you can float liquor inside or drink it on the side. So simple little thing, cost is zero because you're using egg anyway. You cut it on the top and change your drink. Also we do another kind of rim, which is Nescafe coffee. So if some people prefer the really bitterness of coffee, you can float it upside down, you get bitterness. Or when you drink it from the egg, you get the flavor then. And it basically melts on your tongue because it's instant coffee. What did you put in this case, Luca?
Pancia Abruzzo.
Pancia Abruzzo. So in this case, we put Italian Amaro. So similar flavor, licorice, deep sweet flavors, digestive style. You can drink it again because the coffee cocktail is similar to Flip, or you can pour it inside and it eventually change your drink. Eh? It cut the sweetness as well. Thank you, Matteo. Troublemaker. Okay, thank you very much. Enjoy your afternoon, guys. That was our last day. Thank you.